All right, Donald Trump. So his trial begins April 15th, jury selection. Trump's going to have to be there because it's a criminal case. So he'll have to be in a courtroom in Manhattan 4 days a week with illegally disguising reimbursements related to paying hush money. Notice the words, illegally disguising reimbursements. This is the Stormy Daniels case. So I'm sure you know about it, but just to recap, Stormy Daniels is a sex worker, and apparently she had an encounter with Donald Trump a few days before the 2016 election. She got in touch with the Trump people and said, give me money or I'm going public and you'll lose the election. You know, some might say that's extortion. Anyway, she got money from the Trump operation. Now, I don't know any more than that. I don't know who ordered the money. I don't know where the money came from. You know, it's like 130,000 or whatever. I don't know. So Trump has pled, of course, not guilty to the charges. Now, Bragg, the DA in Manhattan who doesn't prosecute crimes, all right, is charged Trump with a Class E felony, even though this is usually a misdemeanor. But we all know what's going on in Manhattan, in New York City with Trump. The trial is expected to take 6 weeks, which is pretty long. I mean, I don't know why it would take that long, but that's what is expected. Joining us now from Washington is Roger Severino from the Heritage Foundation. He's a former trial attorney at the U.S. Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division. So he knows this is a state of New York case, not a federal case, but Mr. Severino knows what's going on here. So let's begin with Ms. Daniels and her demand for money. That sounds illegal to me. What do you say?
Yeah, it's so interesting, the twists and turns of this case. You would think that asking somebody for money to keep quiet might count as extortion, and that perhaps Trump would have been the victim of this case. But this entire story has been flipped on its head. Trump is the one that's now in the hot seat because you have these roving prosecutors, not just in this case, but in others, trying to do everything in their power to prevent Trump from being president. This is not about law enforcement. This is about throwing anything they can to go after Trump to impede his ability to run and be, again, the president of the United States. And this case in particular is just dripping with ironies. So they say that this is a hush money case. Well, if Trump, in fact, was paying somebody to keep quiet, that's not illegal. There's no underlying crime in paying somebody to keep quiet. There's non-disclosure agreements all the time. It happens everywhere, all the time. So then second, we had this case of campaign finance violations. That was the first step where people said, you know what, this was an actual influencing of a campaign. What you're doing was paying money as a campaign expenditure to help Trump win his first election. Michael Cohen actually took a fall. That was a lawyer of Donald Trump. He's a convicted perjurer and is now going to be the star witness for Alvin Bragg and the DA. He went down on a campaign finance case to get rid of his underlying other claims. He had a tax evasion claim. He hid $4 million in tax money. He had a claim for bank fraud, essentially, for lying to banks to get a loan. And to make all these cases go away, he also pled guilty to campaign finance violations.
Okay, so let me stop you. Let me stop you there. Let me stop you there. So Cohen, you're saying, is not going to be prosecuted on the other allegations against him because he has agreed to testify against Donald Trump. That's what you're saying, right?
He pled guilty to all those claims. It was a package deal for tax fraud, for bank fraud, for campaign finance violations of the hush money. So he pled guilty to all of that to make it all go away. The campaign finance one was the weakest claim of all. And now Alvin Bragg is saying,
but he had to say that he would give the government something in return, and that something is his testimony, right?
He gets the testimony, right?
Okay.
So he pled guilty.
I want to walk through this because it's complicated. Is there any evidence that's been put forth that you know of, because I don't know of it, that the money paid to Ms. Daniels to keep quiet, and you rightly say that's not a crime, but it would be a crime if it came out of campaign finance funds that were supposed to be used to propel a candidate in an election, right?
Yeah, arguably. But that's the thing. They never went after Trump for that. Those charges were not brought against him. they went after Cohen, and he is the one who pled guilty, right? So now it's taken one more step. So you didn't get Trump on any campaign finance allegations. And by the way, John Edwards, who ran for vice president, had a very similar case. He had hush money he gave out. He was indicted for campaign finance irregularities and violations. He won. He won. So the only other case,
right?
Yeah, he was acquitted. The only other case that comes anywhere near this, the politician won. It was not a campaign finance. Would you have expected Donald Trump to write on his books, I'm making a campaign expenditure for hush money? That would look far worse than giving money to his lawyer to pay the money, right? So, but Alvin Bragg is taking this set of facts and saying, okay, not illegal to give money to keep somebody quiet. If there's no case on campaign finance that was prosecuted, we're going to go for falsifying business records. That's the actual charge. 34 felony counts, falsifying business records. Who is the victim here that is being hurt by these alleged falsified business records, right? There was no campaign finance violation found. So they're alleging that, okay, despite that, we're still alleging there's this other crime. You didn't keep your books right. I mean, this is ridiculous that they're going to these lengths to go after President Trump, and they're going to use Michael Cohen as their star witness when now he's most famous for lying to Congress and going to jail for making false bank statements and lying on his taxes. This is the best they got.
Well, they got Hope Hicks now coming in on this case, former presidential advisor. Used to be Trump's friend. I don't know what Hope Hicks could know, or it's got to be hearsay. I mean, she's not in the accounting meetings, but they have precedent. But here's my theory, Roger, and you tell me if I'm off. I don't think Bragg or the press or anybody else cares whether Trump's convicted or not. They just want 6 weeks of smearing him. That's what they want. And if he gets off, they'll go, but they just want to put him in a position where they can denigrate him and smear him consecutively for that long a period of time. That's what I think it is.
Yeah, and you see the writing on the wall. They're doing everything they can to prevent him from being the next president of the United States. And if that means doing this sort of campaign
I think most people agree with that. Right. Now, the gag order goes along with what I'm saying. So there's a judge issues a gag order to Trump. You can't talk about the case. So the media can run wild for 6 weeks and accuse him of everything under the sun, which they will. But Trump now can't reply to it.
That's right. Right. His best tool is being able to speak and make his case that he's going to go back and reform the justice system because it's been weaponized. It's looking like we're a third world country where you have these forces abusing the court system and abusing the law to go after the political enemies. This case it's
worse than a third world country. In my opinion, it's worse. You're familiar with the Nuremberg trials, right?
Yes. Right.
Okay. So that's what this is. This is a condemnation of an individual. And in the Nuremberg trials, they were stacked in with the Third Reich hierarchy. Okay. And, you know, and we say third world, which means the dictator dictates who gets convicted and who doesn't. Here, Trump will have a jury. Now, it's a Manhattan jury. That's very, very difficult for Trump. But what the government is trying to do here, the government of New York, by the way, let's separate it. Mm-hmm. Government of New York is trying to destroy him through innuendo. They know the press will crucify him, and now he's under a gag order that he can't reply. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Nuremberg trials were just trials, and they had process. Here, you're having an abusive process and a persecution purely for political reasons, right? And the gag order is trying to take away Donald Trump's voice. One of his key points is he's going to reform the justice system to prevent this sort of abuse from happening. Right. But he's prevented from talking about those very abuses in real time.
Or to correct the record as he sees it. But his attorneys better be on it, I'll tell you that. It's going to be a day-by-day horror show. Roger, thanks very much for helping us out. Really appreciate it. If you pick anything up in this trial that you feel is especially egregious or that people aren't understanding, just give us a toot. We'll throw you right back on, okay? Thank you for helping us out.
Thank you.
Right.